Hello, welcome back to Chasing the Dream, a YouTube channel dedicated to shining a spotlight on organizations that are creating amazing workplace cultures and treating their employees with civility, respect, and loyalty. So, my name is Ethan Chazen. I am a New York City-based business growth coach. I help organizations unleash their people's untapped potential to maximize their people's performance and productivity, which then maximizes their profitability. Today, I want to talk about what's in the news, which is an organization called Capital One. They are the ninth largest bank in the United States, and they've just been sued by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Why? For lying to and stealing from their customers. Now, I spent 10 out of my 20 years in corporate America in banking and financial services. I'm hard pressed to say this is a shock to me, knowing the reputational branding of organizations in those industries. But however, let's dive in and see what's going on right now. So let's go to Yahoo Finance, their street reporting. Capital One cheated customers out of billions, this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau lawsuit says. So reported yesterday, Wednesday, Capital One, the ninth largest bank in the United States with over 100 million customers, has seen a recent spike or boost in its earnings. The company's third quarter earnings report from 2024 saw a total net revenue of $10 billion, which is a 5% increase over the same third quarter 2023. All right, so they're doing well, right? Capital One faced increased profits in loan categories such as credit card, auto, consumer banking. Okay, so they're doing well. They're trending in the right direction post-COVID. So as Capital One benefits from strong growth, recent strong growth, it's now facing a lawsuit from the CFPB for allegedly cheating customers out of $2 billion. Capital One's accused of illegally misleading their clients. So go back a little bit. We have to go back to like 2013. Capital One introduces its 360 savings interest account, claiming in advertisements it marketed at the time that the account had the best and the highest interest rates in the nation. So high interest rates are ideal for savings accounts because the interest is the amount of money that the bank pays on the customer's deposit with them. The higher the interest rate, the faster the money in the customer savings account grows. So despite advertising high interest rates for its 360 savings accounts, the CFPB alleges in its lawsuit that Capital One unlawfully misled its customers, claiming that the bank froze that interest rate at an extremely low level during a time when rates rose nationally. The rate, by the way, was locked in at 0.3%, where nationally rates rose as high as 5%. So 0.3% as the best and highest as it was advertised versus nationally 5% interest rate offering. So during the same period in 2019, Capital One also unveiled a different interest product called the 360 Performance Savings product, which the CFPB alleges is virtually identical to the 2013 offering 360 Savings. So here you go. 2013, you have 360 Savings, right? 2019, you have 360 Performance Savings. Same name, 6 years apart. CFPB claims identical offering. The only difference, however, the key difference between both of those is that the bank pays more in interest for the 360 performance saving version. Okay? At one point, the bank allegedly paid an interest rate for 360 performance savings that was about 14 times higher than that 360 savings rate. 0.3, 5%, you do the math, it works out. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker that shows a very, very unethical organizational culture in practice and encouraged by Capital One senior leadership team. The other aspect of the lawsuit claims that Capital One, their management, informed their employees not to promote, not to discuss the higher performance savings product with its customers. Why did it exist then? If it didn't want to tell its customers, do you think maybe it was being offered only as a way to be able to go back and claim if somebody came after them? No, look, we offer this other product, which matches the industry interest rate standard. I don't know. From late 2019 to mid 2024, Capital One lowered and then froze the 360 savings account interest rate to just 0.3%, even as rates climbed nationwide, said the CFPB in its lawsuit. In contrast, starting in early 2022, Capital One increased the 360 performance savings account rate. In fact, the rate went from 0.4 in April 2022 to 3.3 as of January 23 and 4.35% in January 2024. So how does Capital One allegedly hide its new product from 360 savings, the older 0.3% interest rate option? How does it hide it from its customers? The CFPB alleges that Capital One purposefully kept customers with their existing 360 savings accounts in the dark about this newer higher interest rate product. The bank allegedly accomplished this by naming and marketing both products almost identical and quietly eliminating nearly any and all references to that higher interest rate 360 performance savings on its website and other marketing activities. So this is problematic for sure. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. CFPB sues Capital One for cheating its customers out of $2 billion in interest. Why it matters. The CFPB says that Capital One inaccurately represented the variable interest rate for the 360 savings accounts, which the bank called one of the nation's top, best, highest. Okay. The agency, CFPB, also said Capital One intentionally kept consumers in the dark to maintain this two-tiered interest rate system. The bank froze the interest rates at a low while rates rose nationwide, the CFPB claims. The only difference was the branding, the tweet, the inclusion of one word for the higher interest rate, the inclusion of performance. So banks should not be baiting people with promises that they cannot or won't live up to, CFPB Director Rohit Chopra said in his official statement. In a statement to Axios, Capital One denied the CFPB's claims. We strongly disagree with their claims and will vigorously defend ourselves in court, a spokesperson said. You think? That's why they put money aside for lawsuits in their annual budget planning process. The bank also slammed the CFPB, the agency, for preempting the start of the Trump administration, which is historically less CFPB friendly. Aha. So here we get to the heart of it. And you know I've talked about the incoming Trump administration and their proclivity or their structure of the administration to be all these billionaires who don't have any real interest in the majority of the US citizenry population. So here's the deal. Capital One, as a bank, is saying, you're coming after us because you know this is the last week that the current Biden administration and you, the CFPB, can get away with doing this because we're claiming that once the Trump administration comes in, they are less favorably inclined. They don't even want the CFPB to exist, and they'll probably attempt to do away with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So elections have consequences. I've said this before. This matters. So here's something else going on. Capital One currently, right now, is in the process of exploring the acquisition of Discover. Excuse me, I said it backwards. Discover is in the process of attempting to acquire Capital One. So who knows how this, if at all, this lawsuit is going to affect that acquisition from proceeding. Jared Seilberg, an analyst for TD Cowen Washington Research Group, said in a note to clients today that the lawsuit is not likely to impact this acquisition, but that the lawsuit might survive inauguration as Trump 2.0, not Trump 2016, but Trump 2025, is more populist than Trump 1.0. So despite whatever claims he made alluding to banking and financial services during the campaign, there is some conversation on the street as analysts start to say, well, the incoming Trump administration may not be as hostile towards retaining the CFPB, and therefore this lawsuit moving forward. Were it to go to trial, we give Capital One the edge as its actions were consistent with customer contracts, Seilberg wrote. And that's the freaking problem here. Not that this is unethical versus illegal. It sure is unethical. The legality of it, I'm not a legal expert or scholar. However, the fact that this is standard operating procedure as it exists in all banks and financial services, have we learned nothing? Can we have a Susan Powers stop the insanity moment? Go back to 2007, 8, 9. Do you remember when banks and financial services firms cheated and lied to their customers, stole their money, foreclosed on their homes? Do we remember what happened then during the last recession? Nothing fundamentally has changed. And all those banks went, go to the government and they asked for bailout and savings and financial survival protection measures. Have we learned nothing from that? So let's go to NPR. U.S. watchdog, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, sues Capital One, alleging that the bank cheated customers out of $2 billion. Let's hear what they have to say about this story. The CFPB suing Capital One. It claims the bank failed to pay more than $2 billion in interest to its customers on products it sold to them and they purchased. The Consumer Bureau, a federal agency responsible for consumer protection in the finance sector, alleges that Capital One marketed its 360 savings account as having some of the best interest rates in the country, but didn't mention to its customers that its newer product, the 360 Performance Savings Account, had interest rates of up to 4.35% as of 2024, compared to the 0.3 rate of 360 savings in 2019. The agency, CFPB, alleges the bank schemed with intent to steal for members to keep their lower yield 360 savings account open by locking their interest rates into that much lower rate, giving the lower and higher yield accounts the same name. Let's be honest, the same name. I'm a marketing professional. And so the branding and the perception from the consumer standpoint is it's intentional that they equate both. They get them confused. Giving the lower and higher yield accounts same names and not marketing the higher yield offering. And in fact, instructing their employees not to discuss the higher yield option with their clients. So lastly, let's go to Morningstar. And then I'll wrap up today's video. I promised a relatively short one compared to what I usually do. Capital One cheated customers out of $2 billion by keeping their deposits in the lower yield account, the 360 savings, CFPB says. So Consumer Financial Protection Bureau sues financial firm for keeping customers in the dark about the higher yielding product, the 360 Performance Saving option, with the up to 5% interest rate versus the 0.3. Capital One Financial Corp allegedly cheated customers out of $2 billion by keeping them in the dark about a savings program offering higher interest rates on their deposits, the CFPB said on Tuesday. So today's Thursday. CFPB Director Rohit Chopra said the federal government is suing Capital One because banks should not be baiting people with promises they can't live up to. I already mentioned that. Since the alleged misconduct took place before Capital One's proposed $35 billion merger with Discover Financial Services, $35 billion, was announced in February of 2024, the CFPB's action won't have any impact on the deal, a different say. Nor does the action come as a surprise to Wall Street, because Capital One warned in October that it could face legal action from the government on the issue. Hey, everybody, just a heads up, we did something really, really bad. We got our hand caught in the cookie jar. Just wanted to throw this out there so it's not a complete shock to everybody, before earnings. Nor does it, okay, so the CFPB said consumers who signed up for Capital One's 360 savings program, which launched in 2013, were told it offered one of the highest interest rates in the nation. The bank didn't tell its customers when it came out with the 360 performance savings product, which paid significantly more, anything about how they should change their accounts, or their accounts would automatically be rolled forward into the higher interest paying account. None of that. Capital One did not specifically notify 360 savings account holders about the new product and instead worked to keep them in the dark about these better paying accounts. There's more, but I'm stopping. Look, thank you for taking the time to come in today to my YouTube channel and check out this other video on organizations doing things that one can say are unethical, if not illegal. We're in the 21st century. Organizations have a choice. They can continue this outdated concept of maximizing shareholder return on investment, which is dying in the 21st century, or shift their focus from an organizational culture to focus on stakeholder value. And so here's the thing. When you focus on financial results, you automatically risk your organization of any size in any industry or sector ultimately failing. Why? Because in the 21st century, with the transforming of the American populace, those 330 million people, and many more, a much higher percent of the workforce being constituted with millennials and Gen Zs, who have fundamentally different expectations about organizational behaviors and ethics and values, you're literally playing Russian roulette with your organization's livelihood, literally putting a bullet in the chamber, spin and aim and trigger. Why? If you practice morality and a strong code of conduct with high principles, you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. In fact, coming on my podcast soon is a gentleman by the name of Bart Houlihan, who started a company called B Labs. He now is a partner at an organization called The Rational Capital. And what they do is offer investment funds, large, mid, and small cap funds of organizations that outperform their competitors, who are all designated great places to work. This is the practical reality. So thanks for coming in today, checking out the video. If you like it, be sure to press that like button. If you have any comments or thoughts about this, share them with respect and civility. I always respond to comments put here on the channel. And lastly, if you like the video and you like the work that I'm doing, please subscribe to this little old channel. It is really a passion of mine to shine a light on organizations that are really practicing the highest level of ethics and committing, not just lip service, committing their organization's future to their people. Thanks so much. Have a great day.